A busy Tuesday in the NHL means a jam-packed hump day episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with all of the top news from around the NHL. Eichel out week to week. Patty Kane dealing with a day-to-day ailment. And what is going on with Jacob Markstrom just when he got hot? He's hurt again. Goaltending trade market chatter and all of Wednesday's bets. Thank you for joining us. Let's tap in.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's another one of those days where we are lucky to be here breaking down all of the fantasy hockey news that y'all need. And thank you for joining us, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. My friends, welcome back inside the lab. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. You know you got your boy Steele Roden and your boy Flip Livingstone here with you to break down every single little bit of news. And Steele, somehow, since we talked this morning, planning for the show, a whole bunch of other news has come down the pipe, so we're going to cover it all. Eichel, week to week, surgery. Patty Kane, out day to day. Jacob Markstrom, a name that's been floating around that goaltender trade market. He's out once again, Steele, and he was just really starting to pick up steam. There's an interesting angle to be had there, and we'll slide right into one of the biggest conversations right now. There are a ton of teams out there looking for a goalie, and Steele, if you're one of those GMs near to the top, and you're able to maybe pounce on one of these goalies like Elvis Merzlikins or Markstrom, who are going to go to a contender, that might take your team over the top, and that's where we're going to break it down. Of course, Wednesday's bets. I'm going to stop the preamble because it's a lot to get to. Jack Eichel is a player that you have had your eye on for a long time. You're very high on this player for obvious and good reasons. What's your take on this? Because he has also had serious injury concern. It's going to be week to week. Surgery is surgery. What are you feeling about this? A Vegas Golden Knights, the team that has also been struggling, Steele.
Yeah, struggling because of how many injuries they have on their roster right now or on the IR. Like they are right beside the Columbus Blue Jackets with the most riddled injuries to date at this point in the season, and big names as well. Obviously, Jack Eichel out week to week with that lower body injury, just had surgery on it. Took a hip check from Matt Grzelcyk in that Boston Bruins game on January 11th. So it didn't look good. Initially, it just seemed like his skate blade came out, and that's why he wasn't able to get up, and his teammates were helping him to the bench. But then you actually saw him head down the tunnel, needing assistance from some of the trainers. And again, when it comes to this player who has dealt with a lot of significant injuries in his past and really just, not just getting into it, but getting back into the NHL level at a consistent pace, it really sucks for Jack Eichel, and it sucks for all fantasy GMs out there. But I think it might be time to start worrying about the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs, but how are these players going to look, and how is this team going to look when these players come back from injury? Shea Theodore has been out for over a month now. Aiden Hill has been popping back in and out, but hasn't really played a game, even though they activated him at some point and then reneged that decision and put him back on the IR. William Carrier, William Karlsson's been out for over a month, and now Jack Eichel. So these are some pretty serious names and pretty high talent for the Vegas Golden Knights. They are struggling right now in the goaltender position. Logan Thompson has come back from injury as well. So they've been riddled with injuries, and this is just another big hit to their offense. Hopefully Mark Stone, Chandler Stevenson, Ivan Barbashev, Jonathan Marshall. So hopefully those guys can really pick up the pace and pick up the slack for them offensively. But again, they've been really bad the last 10 games, or at least the last 15 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm just trying to pick up where they are 4-6-0 in their last 10 games. Again, just struggling to get wins right now. And same goes for the LA Kings. They're struggling to get wins, even though they just got one against the Hurricanes.
Listen, three things come to mind. Number one, Jack Eichel also led the NHL in postseason scoring last year, taking this team to a cup. He's a point-per-game player. Aside from the obvious fantasy value that will not be replaced with a guy like Jack Eichel, tap into Monday's waiver wire. We'll have a couple of options for you week to week because you're going to have to probably get creative and cycle guys in and out because also, given that he is that good, he is going to have to hit the IR, because when he comes back, if it is only, maybe it's 6 weeks, I don't think you can drop this player yet, Steele. We talked a lot
No.
about dropping some other players. Jack Eichel's not getting dropped, not only because of how good he is, but because he is going to be back. It's only week to week. And I'll also say this Vegas Golden Knights team has proved that they are one of the most deep, talented, and just scouting wise. Look, they ran out 5 goalies last year and they went all the way to the Stanley Cup. So if there's a team that can recover from injuries, it is them. And lastly, you mentioned it, Mark Stone has to step up. And this is a player that can totally do that and is an absolute warrior. He ended his goalish drought. I think he was 8 games
Big
without
hat
a
trick,
goal.
yeah.
Yeah, and then a big game. So maybe this is exactly that moment that he needed to wake up a little bit. And I absolutely love Mark Stone. But those are my 3 takeaways with Jack Eichel. A lot more to talk about, a lot more to get to on today's episode, including Markstrom and Kane, which we'll get to in a minute. But the goaltending trade market, Steele. How many teams out there need a goalie? There's a handful. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about Markstrom, one of the names that those teams are out there looking at in Wednesday's bets. But let's get right to it. Patty Kane. Pontus Holmberg was all over Patrick Kane in that Red Wings Leafs game on Sunday. 2 serious knocks. And I know it's just day to day right now, but Steele, actually, when I read into it, all they're saying right now is that he is going to miss the rest of the road trip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's day to day. That makes sense. But hip resurfacing surgery, you and I have talked about this. This ends professional hockey players' career. The fact that it is Patrick Kane coming back, been dealing with many injuries of very, very serious nature, and the point of his career, it's a concern. What do you thinking about this? Because 16 points in 18 games, this is not only just a name, he's fantasy relevant.
Yeah, fantasy relevant. And even though the Detroit Red Wings were struggling to win games, Patrick Kane was producing when he got signed to them.
Yep, right away.
Right away he was scoring goals, passing the puck, and getting some apples out there as well. So, like you said, sideline for at least the next 2 games. I think it's going to be at least 4 games for Patrick Kane. That's just my prediction here. Just looking from the way that he landed on the hip. Like you said, Pontus Holmberg got him with a clean check at the beginning. He fell down 30 seconds later, goes to transitions down the ice to the Detroit Red Wings zone.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a hit. They actually caught skate blades, or I think Patrick Kane might have caught his goaltender stick, and again, just landed on his left hip. And he was down and he was in pain. So this is something very significant for the Detroit Red Wings and Patrick Kane. They are back in a playoff spot. They're in that first wild card spot. So that's good news for them. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. Maybe without Patrick Kane, they can get back to their old form at the beginning of the season and continue to dominate without him for a little bit. But it's going to be significant because Patrick Kane has been producing for fantasy teams out there.
4 power play points, 63 shots on net. It's almost his energy, his veteran presence for a team that, yeah, of course, they got guys like Dylan Larkin. They got some other veteran guys in there. They brought in a bunch in the bottom 6, but there is no one with that winning caliber on that team. And that's what Patrick Kane was brought in there to do. Him not being in there in that lineup. And this is a crucial portion of the stretch of schedule, not only for fantasy GMs, but clearly for teams in the NHL, that is really hard to navigate. And without your veteran that you brought in there, I'm just a little bit concerned about the energy in that Detroit locker room. If this Kane injury is anything more than just day-to-day. We're not going to speculate on that, but we will keep our eyes peeled on it. Steele, what I think we should do, let's go to break right now. Let's bring the Markstrom conversation in full circle for segment 2, and we're going to break it all down, and this goaltending trade market is going to pop off just like big-time bets, but we're going to pop off with a shout-out to today's sponsor. It's Sleeper. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. It's almost a halfway point in the NHL season, and all of your favorite teams are going through their highs and lows, regardless of where they're at in the standings. We need to remind y'all that you could win big by playing daily fantasy on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and of course, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of all 8-player stats. You heard me. Your favorite team, it doesn't matter, even your most hated team, you can win 100 times your money playing on daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Start paying attention and nail your picks today so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL, the code. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you go to YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. They are here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their channel and make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. Continue to follow and leave a 5-star review. Continue leaving the comments. We appreciate all the feedback that we got on our last episode. Really do appreciate the comments and the DMs over on Twitter.
Steele. Shout
Jacob
out to
Markstrom,
those listeners.
Yeah, shout out to all the listeners making the comments, tuning in every single day, Monday through Friday. Let's get to the goalie segments, though. A lot of goalie talk and a lot of trade talk about some of the goaltending out there in the NHL right now. But before we get to some of that conversation, another injury concern about a goaltender, Jacob Markstrom of the Calgary Flames, out with a lower body injury. And this is going to be significant because we were just talking about how the Calgary Flames have just sort of got their stride back right now. Really thanks to a lot of great play around, not just from Markstrom offensively and on the blue line. You know, this is a player that has dealt with a few injuries this season already. He missed 7 games back in December with that fractured finger. But since returning into the lineup from that time, he's gone 7-3-0 with a 2.02 goals against average. So this is going to be significant for the Calgary Flames as Jacob Markstrom was really starting to get his confidence back. He was feeling healthy, and now he's out for with a lower body injury. They recalled Dustin Wolf up there. Daniel Vladar's got the crease against the Arizona Coyotes. So hopefully he can stand tall for the Calgary Flames as they continue to climb that Western standings right now. But what's your take on Jacob Markstrom?
He also has a .936 save percentage in those 10 games since returning, which is perhaps the number that I'm looking at the most. And if you are a team circling the wagons for a goaltender, that's probably the number that you're willing to now pay. Perhaps a significant price for Jacob Markstrom, a goaltender steal that not far removed from being a Vezina favorite. A guy that I honestly think has not really ever been on a bona fide contender. Bona fide, however you want to say it. His years in Florida, not so good. I remember sometimes in Vancouver, I believe, in between. Not good at all. And now, obviously, Calgary Flames up and down. I think those are his 3 teams. Let me just bring that up before I sound really awful. Florida, Vancouver, Calgary.
Correct.
Wow, that is correct. Thank you. He hasn't been on a contender, and I really do think if you are one of those teams, and I have a whole bunch of them listed on this graphic, Carolina, LA, Colorado steal. You've been one of those guys pointing out Georgiev has been allowing 5, 6, 7 pieces with regularity. If you're the Colorado Avalanche and you're this close to another cup, I would be taking a serious look at Jacob Markstrom as well. But also, the LA Kings have Phoenix Copley out and struggles to Cam Talbot. Toronto has Martin Jones to rely on right now. And we know the Carolina Hurricanes are out there looking to make an addition. So to me, we're talking about Markstrom and the injury and his availability, but it connects to everything else, and it's a domino effect situation, I think, with this goaltending market. But to me, Jacob Markstrom has proven over the last 10 games very, very fantasy relevant and a piece that teams are looking at.
Yeah, and the goaltending market is very, very sparse right now. There's not a lot of options out
there.
Top 2, in my opinion, are obviously Jacob Markstrom, and then right below him, John Gibson is the next guy in line for me. I know there's a lot of other names: Elvis Merzlikins, Jake Allen, James Reimer, Karel Vejmelka. Even I don't even want to say this guy, but Capo Kakinen's been on the trade block as well for the Sharks. I don't necessarily agree with the LA Kings. I really do like Cam Talbot, even though he is struggling. But again, they Phoenix Copley and David Riddick is not a great backup goaltender to have right behind him. I know Talbot's struggling the last couple of stretches of games, but that's the take for the LA Kings. But I do agree. Colorado, Alexander Georgiev has not been on his game after what he did last season. Toronto Maple Leafs have to be on this list because they've got Martin Jones and Ilya Samsonov. Carolina Hurricanes have been riddled with injuries in the blue paint as well. And then another team in the Eastern Conference, the New Jersey Devils, Vitek Vanacek has just not been great at all this season.
It's been Nico Dawes steal out there lately. Jeez, holy, no offense, but the fact that team that is that good, I know injuries.
And he's been okay too. Dawes has been okay.
He's been okay.
But he's not going to be the guy in the playoffs.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. And you know what? I know Dougie Hamilton, the season has gone off the rails a little bit for the Devils, I think, but I just also believe that if they do start to get healthy up front, I don't know about Dougie Hamilton. I don't want to count out a team with that much talent if they do make a move for a goalie. I don't want to count them out at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't count them out as well. You know, if they get some of these players in the lineup, if they're in the playoffs, Dougie Hamilton should be back around that
Yeah, I
time.
think so too.
You know, Jack Hughes has been dealing with injuries all season long. He's only
Hey.
played 30 games on the season. We're not going to go down that road again, but the New Jersey Devils could use some help in the blue paint right now because of what they've seen from their two goaltenders. Again, some of these guys, I think we've talked about John Gibson a little bit. The Toronto Maple Leafs do seem to have a connection with the Anaheim Ducks. There's always these little links between two clubs who make very frequent trades with each other. And John Gibson seems to have been on the trade block for, I don't know, 5 years now, maybe more. So I would really like to see John Gibson move to a contender and see what he can do. He is 8-17-0 on the season, 899 save percentage, but he does not have a strong team in front of him. They did start off pretty hot in the months of October, November, but ever since then, they've been dread awful.
Before I just throw out a bit of like a Toronto Maple Leafs fanboy take, looking at all of these teams also is just the main takeaway for any of these goaltenders that they perhaps make a move for. Markstrom right at the top of that list. Toronto, Carolina, New Jersey, LA, and Colorado. And maybe say what you will about the Leafs and Jersey, especially LA of late. All of those teams all have a legitimate shot to go on a run in the playoffs. I don't even care what you want to say about if they're going to win the cup. All of those teams are by far good enough to go on a run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that means fantasy-wise, if they add a goaltender who is maybe on a team that has been struggling a little bit or might not get there, his numbers go up. You and I have covered this, and that's what is important about this goaltending trade market. Because if you can pounce on one of those guys, Steele, that is going to be the difference, because we know that these goalies will get wins as these teams push for that playoff positioning. I don't think it's rocket science, but maybe we should break down some of our favorite bets, which is a little bit more like cooking up some science, because only 3 games on the Wednesday board, but I do have yet another same game parlay. We've gotten away from calling it a big flip triple dip, which is okay, but I think we're going to go back to it in a big way, and I'm going to hammer some wins for us tonight.
I also have a same game parlay,
Bang!
big flip triple dip.
Hey.
I'm very excited. Before we get to big time bets, I
Please.
am very excited about this trade deadline, though. I want to see how many goaltenders are moved come the trade deadline time. So there's a lot of goaltenders on there. Again, Elvis Merzlikins has been very vocal about his time recently in Columbus. He's pissed off with his deployment right now. He said he's unleashing the beast, unleashing the monster. So I'm very excited to see what he can do for his fantasy value, as well as NHL value across the league. The other guys that we just mentioned, John Gibson, Jacob Markstrom, and all the other guys.
I got my eyes on Merzlikins as well. Good take.
Merzlikins. It'd be surprising. I would be very disappointed if Toronto went after him, because it's no upgrade whatsoever, in my opinion. But
hey, I'll say this. Let me throw this out there for a little food for thought, because obviously your boy has a little bit extra time on his hands, and I was digging into Merzlikins today a little bit too deeply. When he entered the NHL, I don't know if a lot of people remember this, he started his career on an 8-0 win streak. 5 of those wins were shutouts.
Yeah.
That's only been done one other time since 1950. So he has shown flashes of brilliance, obviously flashes of being hot garbo. But Merzlikins, to me, Steele, I wouldn't hate. No, I'm not even going to say it. He might just be a valuable piece. I'm not going to say anything about the Leafs. Take us away. Let's get to
You really
bets.
did go down the rabbit hole on Merzlikins tidbits over there.
You have no idea. It's been a long day. Let's get to bets so I can have another wobbly pop and put myself to bed.
Same game parlay. Hopefully it's from the same game. Let's see what happens. But before we get there, this episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, and leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Again, continue leaving the comments. Give us your feedback, some criticism if you have it, as well as your thoughts and topics that you want Flip and I to discuss on the podcast here. Flip, I want to talk about my picks first, but I want to know what game your same game parlay comes from. What game are you looking at?
It's only 3 games on the board, and the game is, if you were to guess, how about, let's have a little bit more fun. There's 3. Take your pick. Which one are you thinking? Is it Detroit, Florida, Montreal, New Jersey, or Chicago, Buffalo? By the way, two out of those 3 to me are stinkers, but I might be betting on that. Steele, who am I betting on?
All right. Well, I think you're going to be going with the same one that I'm going here with, Detroit Red Wings and the Florida Panthers. Is that the correct game?
You are correct, good sir. Let me hear what you have to say, because there might be a side bet coming on.
There might be a side bet. Hopefully not, because that probably wouldn't be pretty for myself over here, because it's been a dreadful start to the year betting-wise for me. But hopefully I can turn it around on Wednesday night. Big time bets. I got 4 picks, actually, from the same game.
Yes.
And I'll take it off from here. Panthers on the money line, -220, or on the puck line at +108. Either way, take the Panthers regardless. They're 10 out of 10, a perfect 100% in the last 10 matchups. 7 have been by 2 or more goals. That's why I'm mentioning the puck line as well. So if you're feeling a little spicy, they've proven to win by 2 or more goals, but they've won the last 10 matchups against the Detroit Red Wings. So I'm going to take the Panthers on the money line, take it a little bit safer route at -220. I'm also going to go Carter Verhaeghe anytime goal. Has 23 on the season. He went a little bit goalless. He went on a goalless streak there for a while, but he got one in the last game, and I love Carter Verhaeghe because of you, Flip. Second or third pick of the night, Sam Reinhart, anytime goal.
Has to be.
Same 7-game goal streak for Reinhart. He's got 32 on the season. He is right on Austin Matthews' tail right now, 32 on the season. Matthews has 33. He's just been red hot. He's been the guy. Fourth and final pick. I don't know if Barkov is in the lineup for this game. He was day-to-day because he got injured in the last game. But if he is in the lineup,
he's supposed to be good to go. I read the coach's breakdown. I've been down the rabbit hole. He should be good to go. Paul Maurice saying he is going to be in action.
If he's good to go, then I'm probably going Barkov anytime assist. But what I have here is also Matthew Tkachuk anytime assist. The guy's feeding the puck. He might not be scoring as many goals as we want him to, but he's still facilitating. He's still playmaking. The power play has been special for them. So I'm going with the Barkov anytime assist, but also Matthew Tkachuk anytime assist. So now I have 5 from the same game.
Giddy up, South Niagara parlay for the Carter Verhaeghe fans. Shout out to the Niagara Dogs. I'm all over this player, Steele. And in the past 10 games, 15 points, 7 goals, 8 assists, 2 game-winning goals. Shooting at a 30% percentage clip. Throw some respect on my boy Carter Verhaeghe once again. And this team is cooking. So let me just cook a little bit more alongside exactly what you're doing. You said all that needs to be said about the Florida Panthers in this head-to-head situation. But also, how about we dig into the total? Because I got Carter Verhaeghe anytime point. I got Panthers on the puck line. I'm going all in on this one, Steele. And I'm also feeling the under. And I know that's spicy to go along with a player prop and the puck line. I think this Detroit Red Wings club, and I know Patrick Kane just got there, him being out day-to-day is going to affect the offensive chemistry and mojo up front. Alex DeBrincat and him have been forming it. This is going to affect their offensive ability, so that's why I'm leaning toward the under. 12 of Florida's last 15 games, under the number. The total has also gone 12 of the last 16 under the number when Florida plays Detroit. Under 6.5, along with Panthers puck line and Carter Verhaeghe anytime point. Let's have a big, big night, Steele.
Let's also hope this isn't an Alex Lyon revenge game against his former club, Florida Panthers.
Why did you even say it?
No, because it goes both ways. Maybe, at least enough of a revenge game to keep it under 6.5 for you, but enough that they are not enough that they don't win this game. But
now I'm good.
Look, the trend is the trend. They've won 10 in a row.
Friends are your friends, baby. Shout out to Uncle John.
Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Reinhart. I got 4 player props at this point. I'm also going to go with the puck line with you, maybe at +108.
Jump
Same game
on.
parlay for both Flip and I. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find all of our episodes. Make sure you go on YouTube as well. Subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your bets. Hopefully the same game parlay hits for all of us out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.